This is Jonas at the Solution Center in Tokyo. We are doing a bit of a showcase on how to do server configuration profile imports and exports on Windows using Python and Redfish. We are going to start with a simple export. System configuration profiles are essentially all of the server's settings that can be exported to XML or to JSON format. It can be very handy when you're doing server setups, like deployments of hundreds of servers. You want to copy and paste all the settings between them. It can also be very useful if you want a subset of settings and have them imported, for example, for enabling a feature like VNC, for example. Now, you can use our command line tools like RAC-ADM, for example, but in that case you have to do one setting change at a time. The SCP, or the server configuration profiles, are useful in the way that you can do multiple settings at the same time. And note that you don't necessarily have to do all of them at once. You can do some only. A subset is fine. We are going to export the configuration of one server to a CIFS share. We have the export script name, IP address of the iDRAC, username, password, root and Kelvin, and then the XML file name that we're going to get in the end. So when the script has kicked this off, it will keep checking the status of the job until it is finished. It should not take too long. And there we are, 24 seconds. Let's go and have a look at the CIFS share, or the Samba share, since we're using Samba today. And we can there verify that the file name that was specified is present. So extremely easy to do a backup of the settings or an export of the settings. And if you have a look, you can see it has information about the service tag, the server type, etc., etc. Note that it is possible to import many of the settings, not all necessarily, but many of the settings can be imported to a server of a different hardware, like a different model. A different hardware model is fine. So you could take settings from Tower server, import it to Rec server, for example, depending. If you want to do cloning of servers, then they should have the exact same hardware setup, including the disks, etc., so that you can get the RAID volumes recreated. We've now made a copy of the file, and we're going to use that to import it later on. We want to change a couple of settings. First of all, we'll change the power cap setting from disabled to enabled, and then we'll change the power cap value to a value that we can easily recognize in the web GUI later after we have run the script. So in this case, we just picked 333. We'll save the file, and then we'll go back to our Windows console and see if we can actually import this. We're going to verify first, so you can see that the only settings that are different are those two in there. Note that it's possible for you to import all these other settings as well, even though they are currently set already at the server, and just modify a couple. iDRAC will know that only a couple of these are different and ignore the rest. So only change what it needs to change. Or you could just have deleted all the other settings, that's fine as well, and just import the ones that you want. So we changed the script from export to import, and since I'm lazy, I'm going to go and copy the iDRAC IP address and the username, password. File name for import, of course, is different now since we made a copy with a different name. So we'll copy and paste that in, and then we run the import. This too should not take too long. and you can see here from the web GUI that the job is running 10%. That should be very quickly finished, I think. Leave that for a few more seconds, and there you go, it's 100%. So we're all done. You can verify 24 seconds as well from here, from the console. Now let's go and see. So we actually changed the setting that we can easily verify from the web GUI. So let's go and have a look at it. Go to the maintenance tab. Nope, configuration, never mind. And we can see from here that the power cap is enabled and it is set to 333. Exactly what we wanted. Now we've done CIFS now, but you can also do web. Web as in an Apache server, web server. So you can export files to it and you can import. And when you do this, you can actually do not XML but JSON. And in this case, we have set the target to all, which means we are going to include all the settings of the server, not just a subset like the BIOS or lifecycle controller. And the share type is HTTP, a web server. So run the script and specify, just as before, the IP address of the iDRAC, username, password of the iDRAC, and then the file name that we wish to have created on the web server in this case. Then we've got an export system configuration job created. The job ID is there, and that's essentially a lifecycle controller job ID. We can go in here and we can have a look at it, see if the job is done. And it sure looks like it, yeah. So our export has been finished. Just search for the same job ID in there. So if we go and have a look at the web server, or the Apache root directory in this case, if I can find the right folder. And okay, so we now have our exported file. Contains all the settings of the server, and in this case we have picked the JSON format instead of XML. So we'll just make a copy of this so that we can modify the settings. And we edit the file, the copy that we made. You can easily find the 333 that we had set before. We just modify that to something else, in this case 666, so that you can find, you can basically verify that this works later on when we import it. In this case we actually got root and root as the owner and the group. We'll modify those to Apache so that we match the previous file there, just in case there'll be permission problems. So we've got that done now, and then we'll just run the import. Make sure we get the right file name when we import it. The one with the new power cap value. Just like before, we get a job ID, and when the iDRAC retrieves the file from the web share, it will ignore any settings that are already set and pick up on the ones that are different. In this case, only one is different, just the power cap value is different. So that should not take too long, and it did not, 12 seconds. Let's go back and have a look at it. And the configuration now, power cap is set to 666. So that worked just fine. So zips is fine, and Apache web server is fine. So let's try something different now. It is possible to do local exports, and that is actually streaming the settings directly to the console of whoever is running the script. So we point that to the same server as before, and then we will get it to essentially dump the settings that we want to screen. In addition, just for usefulness sake, we will also create a file, an XML file in this case, with the settings in there. We don't have to specify a file name though; it has that actually pre-configured. And there you go, that's the settings dumped to screen, and it will also helpfully enough just mention that okay, these attributes have been saved in this XML file here, so if you want to look at them you can do it here. Only 5 seconds to export that, so that was pretty quick. So we open it up and let's see if we can find a setting that we would like to change. For example, CPU virtualization, it was disabled and we have modified the setting now to say enabled. And we could import this as is. However, there is a way to check the time it will take to import a configuration file. So maybe we should do that. In order to do that, we can't do that locally. So the script takes a file from a zips share. So let's just copy and paste all the settings into an XML file on the Samba server, on the zips server. And we've done that now. And then we will use that with our import preview script. That's the script here. So import system configuration preview is the method that we're going to use. Same story as before. I'm sure you're getting used to it now. IP address, username, password, and the file name. Very easy. And now it will take all these settings, it will look at them, and it will say roughly how long it thinks it's going to take for it to be applied. And the output here is, well, 180 seconds is the estimate. That's roughly how long I think it's going to take to do this. These settings involve a reboot of the server, and that's why it takes a little bit longer. Now let's just try that then. We'll do the import and just import local files. So we stream this across directly to the iDRAC. We don't have to have a zips share or a web server or anything set up. We just stream the local file straight to the iDRAC and let it apply those settings. I'm going to speed up the application of this a little bit so that we don't have to sit and wait for it. You can see the reboot is taking place here now on the little screen. The script is checking the status of the job until it's finished, and there it is. So the job completed in 3 minutes 59 seconds, a little bit longer than expected, but if we go in and have a look at the actual setting, we can see there that the virtualization is now enabled. Thank you very much.